So the biggest transfer in football history has finally been confirmed. Paul Pogba has been sold to Manchester United for a total of £89 million, which is the English equivalent of currency. And to give you a context of how much that is worth in the football marketplace, Gareth Bale was sold to Real Madrid from Tottenham Hotspurs for a total of £85 million. But the transfer of Paul Pogba to Manchester United for that fee makes complete sense. The marketplace is not as it once was. Owners are getting richer, and this doesn't include the big clubs. This includes small clubs. Well, they used to be a small club, but Leicester City, who won the English Premier League title previously, they have had money to spend, and they've bought, Ahmed Musa from CSKA Moscow, who looked very dangerous in the match against Manchester United in the Community Shield. But the sum of money doesn't really matter, because the first rule of business is to earn more than you spend. And Paul Pogba has signed a 5-year contract with an option to extend into a 6th. So that means he has the time to repay Manchester United, not just in terms of his playing quality, but also financially. Football is a business, and football is not just about how many fans you can get into the seats. It's the sponsorships you make. I mean, Manchester United have a ton of sponsors, and they're such a big club. And obviously with Paul Pogba's connection with Adidas, that helps Manchester United as well, because he's one of the figureheads for that brand. So Paul Pogba, he's only 23 years old, and he's joining the Manchester United squad at a time where he can cement himself as one of the best players in the world. At the moment, you would give that title to players like Cristiano Ronaldo from Real Madrid, Neymar from Barcelona. But the thing that Pogba has that they don't have is that he's a midfielder. Those guys are forwards who are predominantly goal scorers. They have that selfish trait about them. They can control the ball because they've got awesome dribbling skills. But Pogba is a special talent because he is a midfielder who can play like a forward, and he can also play defensive as well when need be. He can play that CDM role, holding role. He can hold the defensive midfield, but he can also attack. How many long-range goals have we seen from Paul Pogba for Juventus? I mean, he is just a long-shot master, a long-shot pro. And that is no doubt something Jose Mourinho will want to tap into, not just his passing and vision, but his ability to score goals from the midfield. And when you look at this Manchester United setup now, they've got Zlatan Ibrahimovic as a striker, and obviously Rashford is waiting in the wings, and he'll be a very important player for them when Zlatan's not playing, maybe say in an FA Cup in the earlier rounds, or if his form warrants it, probably plays with Zlatan. But Paul Pogba will be in the midfield, and he'll be in the midfield with players like Schneiderlin, who came from Southampton, Carrick, who is a great midfielder, but he's in the last year of his contract. Whether he'll renew next season, we're not quite sure. So they needed a midfield player, and Jose Mourinho identified that was a weakness. It has always been a weakness for Manchester United. If you picked one position, that was the position. Because if you look back into the Cristiano Ronaldo, Wayne Rooney era, when Wayne Rooney was at his prime, hustling best, their midfielders, they had Paul Scholes, and Pogba didn't have enough playing time when he went to Manchester United or when he was promoted in 2011. He had to face players like Scholes, Carrick in the prime of his career, and Owen Hargreaves even, until injury caused his career to go downhill. But he was a great player when he was on the field as well. So Paul Pogba addresses this need of speed. He is a very quick player who can hold the midfield, and he's got exciting elements that just make the crowd look at this player and say, this is the X factor that we need in our team. because not only does he have the X factor, but he is consistent. He has shown that through his Juventus performances in the Champions League especially, and he has that experience. He knows what Manchester United is like. He's been there under Sir Alex Ferguson's tenure, and he knows the players. He knows, Jesse Lingard, who's doing really well at the moment. He scored a goal in the Community Shield. So he knows all these players, and that's another reason why this transfer happened, because Paul Pogba is a huge name, right? Manchester United is not going to be the only club that are going for him. I wouldn't have been surprised if Real Madrid were interested. There were reports that they were heavily interested in him. But Paul Pogba has that connection back into his academy days, so he knows the environment, because it can take a while to settle into a new club. Take a look at Angel Di Maria. He went to Manchester United, hadn't really had a taste of English Premier League football, and found it really difficult to adjust. And this Paul Pogba transfer, the question is not, can he justify the price tag of £89 million, because he will, both financially and performance-wise in the future. But the question will be, how much more can he bring beyond that? How much more? Because he stated on record that he wants to be the best player in the world. And Manchester United is definitely one of the best clubs to do that in, when you can learn off players like Ibrahimovic. Wayne Rooney has been a figurehead for the Manchester United Football Club for a good decade now, coming from Everton. So transfers are part of the game. In the future, the £89 million will be eclipsed. Could that happen with Roberto Sanchez if he ever moved from Bayern Munich? Obviously, he was bought, I think it was about £40 million, roughly. And, when his career progresses, we saw his dominance in the World Cup. That was absolutely amazing for an 18, 19-year-old. And so in the future, his price tag could go up. And one day we could see Roberto Sanchez at that age where Pogba is now, 23, still young, and yet to hit the peak of his career and be sold for $95 million. We don't know. And Manchester United was another suitor for Roberto Sanchez, but Louis van Gaal decided not to go for him in the end. So Jose Mourinho has addressed his four needs, one of them being forward, the other being midfield, the other being the back, which they've got Eric Bailly from Villarreal. So they've spent big, but they've spent wisely. It's a bit different to when Louis van Gaal bought Falcao on loan. Falcao was coming off that ACL injury to his knee, and he's still coming off that rehabilitation. He hasn't looked the same player since. Even when he went to Chelsea under Jose Mourinho, he just didn't look the same. Even with the limited playing time he got, he wasn't the same as he was at Atletico Madrid. Back then, he was not just an aerial threat, but he was just so aggressive, a box-to-box player, not in a midfield sense, but in the forward line. He was the one you go to, kind of like, he was not just good in the air, but he had that poacher ability to just snatch goals, like a Javier Hernandez. But, Falcao didn't work out, and they sold Danny Welbeck to Arsenal, which in my opinion was quite a poor decision, because he's an academy player. And so Paul Pogba, it's not a transfer where you go, okay, they've just spent big on a really big player. They've spent big on a player who has had that connection to Manchester United previously. And he addresses that huge weakness of, like I said, pace in the midfield. Look at who Manchester United have got. They've got Michael Carrick, who's about to retire soon, Fellaini, and Fellaini, as we saw in the Community Shield when he gave up that goal to Jamie Vardy, he's a very good aerial threat. He is someone you want when you're taking crosses. He's got such a powerful header on him, and he's a very strong player as well, but he's not quick. And Pogba is the whole package when it comes to a midfield player. He is a backline, mid and forward player, and he can just do about everything. He's got great dribbling, and Sir Alex Ferguson addressed this previously. Pogba was an amazing talent, and they knew he would be. But when they let him go to Juventus for a small transfer sum, that was more due to angst more than anything else. Sometimes it's not just about the players; it's about the agents. And Sir Alex Ferguson didn't like the agent of Paul Pogba, so naturally, when they were trying to get Pogba to sign a contract, but they just couldn't come to an agreement. They didn't have establish a fair partnership with each other or a meaningful one. And Pogba left because another reason why is because he wasn't getting enough playing time. Paul Scholes. There's so many players that were ahead of him at that point, not because he wasn't good enough per se, but because they were just better than him at the time. And because Pogba was only a kid, 18, 19 years old. So he went to Juventus, which was the right move. He's played in Champions League finals. He's won the Serie A title countless number of times. He's won the league title countless number of times. He's lost the UEFA Champions League final, but he went into the final. And with this team that Jose Mourinho is building, they've got Mkhitaryan from Borussia Dortmund as well. You just have to wonder, they're building a team which can compete, not just in the present, but in the future. And so this sum of money this should be looked at in the long term. It's easy to go, okay, $89 million, that's a huge amount of money for a star player. 89 million pounds, sorry. Dollars is the Australian equivalent where I live. And but you have to look at it's a long-term investment and the amount of excitement he'll bring. And he's not one of these players that's not going to leave it to the gods, so to speak. He's going to work hard day in, day out because he wants to be the best player in the world. You saw Cristiano Ronaldo on record say he wanted to be the best player, and Manchester United was the perfect platform to help him on that way. And now he's at Real Madrid, and he should win the next Ballon d'Or, given his Euro success and his league success also. So, £89 million. The first rule of business is to earn more than you spend, and I believe that Paul Pogba will repay them back and more in the future.